The head of Israel's military intelligence unit has resigned for failing to prevent the Hamas terror attack on October the 7th, in which 1,200 people were killed and 250 others were kidnapped. Major General Aharon Haliva is the first senior Israeli figure to step down over the attack. Haliva said that under his command, the intelligence directorate did not live up to its task. His decision to step down could set the stage for more resignations among Israel's top security personnel. For more, let's cross straight to Rebecca Ritters, our correspondent in Jerusalem. Hi, Rebecca. Now, Haliva says that he bears responsibility for this intelligence failure. How likely is it that we'll now see more resignations from senior military officials?
Well, of course, Anya, that, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the fallout of this resignation. We know that Haliva accepted responsibility already in around about a week after the attack initially took place back in October. And several other significant officials also took responsibility, including Yoav Gallant, the defence minister, though nobody stepping down, of course, until today. The one person that didn't take any responsibility at that time was the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, in his resignation speech, General Haliva said the intelligence division did not live up to the task that we were entrusted with. And we certainly know now, in the aftermath of that attack on October 7, that there were major failures in intelligence. We know that up to a year before that attack in October, intelligence officials were made aware. They had found a document that detailed much of what actually happened. It turned out to actually happen in the attack. And we know that spotters who were stationed to watch over much of Gaza were in fact calling the alarm, saying that they'd seen unusual activity, that they'd seen drills being carried out by Hamas battalions, and that they were worried indeed that there would be an imminent attack. But intelligence officials basically battered those fears away, saying that Hamas had no interest in carrying out an attack. They didn't believe that they had the capability to do so, and in fact that they were more interested in governing Gaza. That was certainly the opinion of not just the military but also the government, listening to that advice from the military. So, as I mentioned, he already accepted some fault way back in October, and now he is, living up to that and standing down as intelligence chief for the military. He's also called for an investigation into the wrongdoings and into the failures of the military, the intelligence, and indeed the government. But that so far hasn't been undertaken by Prime Minister Netanyahu.
OK. Rebecca, stay with us. I'll come back to you in just a second to talk about the scores of bodies that have been found in mass graves at a Gaza hospital. Civil defence teams in Gaza have discovered these bodies buried in a hospital courtyard in the southern city of Khan Yunis. The grave was found in the Nasser Medical Complex, which has previously been raided by Israeli forces. The civil defence group says at least 50 bodies have so far been exhumed. A spokesman said that some had no clothes, indicating that they may have faced torture and abuse. Israel's military says that it is investigating these reports. Rebecca, Israel said that it carried out a precise and limited operation at the Nasser hospital. It doesn't really fit with what we're seeing on the grounds of the hospital complex after the raid, does it?
Well, sadly, that is true. We've seen the so-called precision targeting of the Al-Shifa and other hospitals as well. But in the aftermath, and certainly the pictures that emerged from there, I will reiterate again that we have not been able to access Gaza. Everyone knows that by now. But the stuff that is being reported from journalists on the ground, people, eyewitnesses, we're seeing a lot of video being circulated on social media and around. And it does not show what you might call precision attacks, which is what the military say they carried out. As you say, 50 bodies. That number has been increasing. I've been hearing 180, even up to 210 bodies from the Nasser graves that have been discovered. That number very likely to rise as many people are reporting missing persons in that area. I've heard numbers of up to 2,000 missing persons in that area, so we may well see that number rise. It's difficult to say at this point. It's obviously ongoing, just how much that number could rise, but precision isn't perhaps the word you would use when you look at the pictures and when you hear the stories of, as you say there, eyewitness accounts of alleged abuse and naked bodies being found in these pits. So we'll have to see what comes of that in the days and weeks ahead, but certainly not what you might call precision.
OK, now let's turn our attention to what's been happening in the West Bank, because residents there have launched a general strike at the weekend. They closed shops and other businesses after Israeli troops raided a refugee camp in the territory. The Palestinian Red Crescent is saying that at least 14 people were killed, dozens were injured. Israel says it targeted militants during a counter-terrorism operation.
Israel's military raids the Nur Shams refugee camp in the northern part of the West Bank. The aftermath: many killed and injured, roads bulldozed, and homes destroyed.
My son was sleeping there. He had gone to wash himself, then he prayed and went home. His home is higher up. There was a sniper in front of him who shot him. I heard the sound of the shooting. My other son went up there and found he was bleeding. He bled to death. Look at his blood.
Palestinians described the Israeli raid as unprecedented.
There is indeed complete destruction of homes, shops, the electricity grid, the sewage, the water network, and the infrastructure. This incursion is unprecedented. There are snipers on rooftops, death squads, and special forces deployed. It's indeed a real war.
The Israeli military says it killed militants during the raid. The army also says it has found and destroyed explosives and seized many weapons used in what it calls terrorist activities. Following the Israeli raid, Palestinian residents launched a general strike. Shops, universities, banks, and the public transportation were all closed to protest the Israeli raid on the refugee camp.
And we're back with our correspondent in Jerusalem, Rebecca Ritters. Rebecca, what did Israel say prompted this raid in the West Bank?
Well, Anya, Israel says that the operation was aimed at dismantling terrorist infrastructure and apprehending suspects. That's generally what they say when they go into these refugee camps or areas, cities, and carry out these raids. It's certainly, we believe, one of the largest raids that's been carried out since October 7, but we know that violence has increased tenfold since October 7. Violence all over the West Bank by the hands of IDF and also by settlers has increased a great deal since the attack on October 7th, with more than 480 Palestinians killed by either IDF or settlers. Now, 2023 was already on track to be one of the deadliest years in the West Bank for more than a couple of decades, really since the Intifada years, and we were seeing that already prior to October 7. That the uptick in violence has surged since then, with critics saying that the IDF are using the distraction of Gaza to go in and settle scores, but of course the IDF saying that it is necessary to ensure the safety of its citizens and to ensure that it doesn't see a second or third front, if you will, if you include what's happening on Israel's northern border with Lebanon. So, you can see that the IDF saying that this is really for security for its citizens, but critics denying that it's necessary and saying that many civilians are being caught up in the fray.
We'll leave it there, Rebecca. Thanks so much. That's DW's Rebecca Ritters in Jerusalem.